Have you ever felt it? A strange and profound stillness that can descend upon a life. A quiet hum beneath the surface of things, where reality itself feels distant, almost indifferent. It's a silence more unsettling than chaos. For chaos, at least, gives the mind something to push against. This silence offers nothing to hold. In these moments, we can look upon our own lives as an established fact, a collection of collapsed outcomes, and we feel like spectators watching a story unfold on a screen we cannot possibly control. It's as if you've been handed a biography of your own life, already written from cover to cover. You can turn the pages, but you can't change the words. This sense of detachment from our own narrative can be the source of a deep and aching frustration, a feeling that we are fundamentally powerless. It is the quiet desperation of watching a film you have already seen, knowing the ending is written, and you are simply riding it out to the final frame. But what if that foundational assumption, and the assumption of our separation, is the grandest illusion of all? What if the line between the observer and the observed is not as clear, not as solid, as we have been led to believe? What if the book of your life isn't fully written? What if some pages are still blank, and the pen is, in some mysterious way, connected to the way you choose to read the story so far? What if the film is not yet finished, and our very act of watching is, in fact, helping to write the script? Our journey together won't be one of vague spiritual ideas, but a descent into the bedrock of experimental physics, where the truth is stranger than any fiction. We will decode a mystery so profound it seems to defy logic itself, how your choice in the present can seemingly reach back and alter the past. Then, we will explore the revolutionary science hinting that these reality-bending processes aren't confined to a laboratory, but may be humming within your very own brain, intertwined with the nature of consciousness itself. This isn't about magical thinking. It is about discovering your undeniable place within reality, and how you might shift from a passive spectator to a coherent participant, capable of quietly shaping the story of your life by mastering the art of observation. To understand how reality could be anything other than a solid, foregone conclusion, we must travel downwards, past the world of chairs, tables, and trees, and into the realm where the world is not yet fixed. At the quantum scale, the universe is not a collection of finished things, but a shimmering, vibrant field of pure potential. Imagine a sculptor standing before a block of clay. Before the artist touches it, that clay is not a vase or a bowl or a figurine. It is all of them and none of them. It is a cloud of pure possibility. This is the quantum realm, and the clearest window we have into this world is through the most famous, and perhaps the most unsettling, experiment in all of physics, the double-slit experiment. First, let's imagine a simple, predictable world. Picture yourself on a driving range, hitting golf balls toward a large wall. In this wall, there are two large, garage door-sized openings. Behind the wall is a net. As you hit the balls, they fly through the air like solid, predictable objects. Some go through the left opening, some go through the right. On the net behind, they create a pattern, two distinct clusters of golf balls, one behind each opening. This is how solid objects behave. It is predictable. It is classical. It makes perfect sense to our everyday minds. But when we perform this very same experiment with the fundamental building blocks of reality particles, like electrons or photons, the single packets of light something profoundly and impossibly strange occurs. Instead of two simple clusters, a completely different pattern emerges on the detector screen. We see a series of many light and dark stripes spread across the screen, with the most intense band right in the middle, a place where no particle should land if it were traveling in a straight line. This is called an interference pattern, and it is the unmistakable signature of a wave. To understand this, imagine you are now at the edge of a calm pond. In front of you is a barrier with two openings, just like before. If you drop a single pebble into the water, it creates a circular, expanding ripple. This ripple passes through both openings simultaneously, creating two new, smaller ripples on the other side. These two new ripples then interact with each other. Where their crests meet, they form a bigger wave. Where a crest meets a trough, they cancel each other out. This pattern of reinforcement and cancellation is precisely the interference pattern seen in the experiment. What this tells us, with the certainty of mathematics, is that a single photon, traveling by itself, did not behave like a golf ball at all. It behaved like a wave. It did not go through one slit or the other. It went through both slits simultaneously and interfered with itself. This is the precise point where our common sense idea of a single, solid reality begins to dissolve into mist. A single particle does not exist in one fixed place, but as a diffuse wave of probability, a haze of potential. It possesses no definite location until it is measured. It exists in what physicists call a superposition. All of its potential paths are, in a very real sense, happening at once. It's like a spinning coin before it lands. It is neither heads nor tails, but a shimmering blur containing both possibilities. The particle is not in position A or position B. It is in a state of A and B. And this is where the mystery deepens into the truly bizarre. Physicists, understandably perplexed as to how a single particle could possibly be in two places at once, decided to watch. They placed a tiny detector right next to the slits, a sort of microscopic motion sensor designed to find out which path the photon actually took. The instant they did this, the moment they introduced an active measurement, the wave pattern vanished completely. The screen behind the slits now showed only two simple bands, exactly like the golf balls from our first example. The very act of observing which slit the photon went through forced it to stop behaving like a wave of possibility and start behaving like a single, definite particle. It was as if the photon, upon realizing it was being watched, had to choose a single slit and abandon its ghostly, wave-like nature. This is the observer effect. But it is crucial to understand what observer means here, because this is where much of the confusion arises. In quantum mechanics, an observation is not necessarily a conscious human being with a lab coat and a clipboard. It is any interaction with the environment that reveals information about the particle's state. It could be a sophisticated detector, a stray air molecule, or any interaction whatsoever that causes what physicists call decoherence. Think of the quantum wave as a perfect, delicate soap bubble, shimmering with all the colors of the rainbow at once. Decoherence is what happens the instant anything a gust of wind, a speck of dust, your finger touches it. The bubble pops, leaving behind a single, tiny droplet on the ground. The shimmering potential is gone, collapsed into one single, classical reality, the reality we experience. The brilliant physicist John Wheeler pushed this even further with his famous delayed choice thought experiment, which has since been confirmed by real-world laboratory experiments. Picture the scene again. A single photon has been fired. It has already passed the barrier with the two slits. It is now in the empty space between the slits and the final detector screen. At this point, it is presumably still a wave, spread out in a cloud of potential. Now, after it has already passed through the slits, but before it strikes the final screen, we make a choice. Choice 1. We do nothing. We leave our detection equipment off. We simply allow the photon to complete its journey unimpeded. The result, as expected. An interference pattern appears on the screen. This result proves that the photon must have behaved as a wave and traveled through both slits at once. Choice 2. At the very last nanosecond, just before the photon hits the back wall, we make a different choice. We rapidly switch on detectors right behind each slit to see which one the photon came through. The moment we do this, the interference pattern vanishes. Instead, we see that the photon went through only one slit like a particle, and the screen just shows two simple bands. Let the profound weight of this sink in. It is so strange that it feels like it should be impossible. Our choice in the present to measure or not to measure appears to determine the story of what the photon did in the past. It's as if we are co-authoring history. If we choose not to look, it turns out the photon had traveled through both slits like a wave. If we choose to look, it turns out the photon had traveled through only one slit like a particle all along. It's like sending a letter to a friend that is written in potential ink that is somehow both a wedding invitation and a breakup letter at the same time. The letter is delivered and sits on their table. Only when your friend decides to open it and read it, the act of measurement, does the ink resolve itself into one message or the other. Our action does not just observe the present, it seems to participate in the creation of the past. As Wheeler famously declared, we live in a participatory universe. Our acts of observation are not passive. They are an inseparable part of the process by which the quantum world of possibilities becomes the concrete world of experience. While it is a significant leap to say this proves we can create reality by wishing, it does reveal that interaction is a fundamental ingredient in how reality manifests at its most basic level. Measurement doesn't just reveal what is there. It plays a role in determining what becomes there. So, we have this scientifically established, experimentally verified principle that interaction helps to shape reality at the subatomic level. But what does this have to do with you? A complex human being living in the large-scale, macroscopic world. For decades, the standard scientific consensus was that these bizarre quantum effects were confined to the microscopic realm. They were thought to be washed out or averaged away in a system as large, warm, and wet as a human brain. The brain, according to this view, was just a sophisticated biological computer, a classical machine operating by predictable, Newtonian rules. The quantum world was a strange, distant basement, and we lived on the solid ground floor, completely insulated from its weirdness. Any quantum weirdness, scientists argued, would instantly decohere. That soap bubble of potential would pop in the noisy, chaotic environment of the brain. But recently, a series of groundbreaking, though still speculative, findings have begun to challenge this long-held assumption. Scientists are discovering tantalizing clues that the brain may not be a classical machine after all, and that quantum processes might be critical to consciousness itself. One of the most discussed studies comes from a team of physicists and neuroscientists at Trinity College, Dublin, led by Dr. Christian Kerskens. Using advanced MRI techniques, they went looking for signatures of quantum effects in the conscious, living brain. They devised an incredibly clever experiment based on an idea used in the hunt for quantum gravity. The logic is this: if you have a known quantum system and you entangle it with a second known quantum system, they become linked. If one of them then interacts with an unknown third system, you can tell if that unknown system is also quantum by seeing if the original entanglement is preserved. To understand entanglement, imagine you have a pair of quantum coins. You flip them, put each one in a separate box without looking, and mail one box to the other side of the world. The moment you open your box and see that your coin is heads, you know with 100% certainty that the coin in the other box is tails. The outcomes are linked or entangled. The Trinity team used the spins of protons in the brain's natural water as their known quantum system. They then looked for a specific MRI signal that would only appear if these proton spins were entangled with each other. They discovered a particular signal related to these proton spins that did, in fact, appear to indicate the presence of quantum entanglement. But the most remarkable finding was when this signal appeared. It only showed up when the test subjects were awake and conscious, when the same subjects were anesthetized and unconscious. The signal vanished completely. The researchers themselves are cautious. This does not definitively prove that consciousness is a quantum phenomenon, but it provides the first compelling experimental hint that unique quantum processes may be happening in the conscious brain and are absent without it. This is the potential bridge. If consciousness itself is, at some level, a quantum process, then your awareness is not operating on an already collapsed, classical reality. Your mind may be operating at the fundamental level where reality is still that field of superposition, that uncarved block of clay, that realm of pure potential. This idea echoes an older, more controversial theory known as orchestrated objective reduction, or OR, proposed in the 1990s by the physicist Sir Roger Penrose and the anesthesiologist Stuart Hameroff. They hypothesized that consciousness is not computed like a program on a computer, but arises from quantum processes occurring inside tiny, protein-based structures within our neurons called microtubules. Think of microtubules as the scaffolding or skeleton of our cells. The OR theory suggests that these tiny structures can sustain quantum wave-like behavior, building up a complex state of superposition. Then, after a certain threshold, this quantum state collapses on its own. And that moment of collapse is a moment of conscious experience, a single frame of awareness. While their theory has long been criticized for the extreme difficulty of maintaining such delicate quantum states in the warm, wet, and noisy brain, it points toward the same revolutionary shift in perception. Since the human brain might be a quantum device, and consciousness could be a macroscopic quantum phenomenon. If this is true, then the separation between your inner world of thought and the outer world of matter is not as solid as it seems. Your conscious awareness, your focused attention, is not merely a psychological event. It may be a physical event, one that influences the very fabric of possibility by its own intrinsic nature. This doesn't mean you can turn a coffee cup into a car by thinking about it, but it does open the door to a more subtle, yet more profound, form of influence. So, what do we do with this? How do we apply these mind-bending principles in our own lives without falling into the trap of pseudoscience or magical thinking? The shift is not about controlling the external world with forceful intention, but about mastering the internal world through a principle we can call shaping in stillness. Let us be unmistakably clear, the science does not support the idea that you can violate the laws of physics. You cannot simply wish for a different outcome and have it appear. Quantum effects decohere, or dissolve, very quickly in our everyday world. The power lies not in forcing an outcome, but in quietly, consciously, and intentionally participating in the unfolding of possibility. Think of it this way. If your consciousness does participate in quantum processes, then the state or quality of your consciousness matters immensely. Research in fields like psychophysiology points to a state called coherence, a harmonious alignment between thoughts and emotions as a potential reflection of this underlying quantum coherence in the brain. When your mind is scattered, anxious, and conflicted, your internal state is incoherent. Your attention is fragmented. In this state, the measurement that your consciousness makes upon the field of possibility is noisy and chaotic. It's like trying to tune an old analog radio by frantically twisting the dial back and forth. You are desperate to hear the music, but your frantic energy ensures you only ever land on static. Shaping in stillness is the art of generating internal coherence. It is the practice of unifying your mental and emotional energy, turning down the static so you can find the signal. Imagine the difference between a standard light bulb and a laser. A light bulb scatters its energy in every direction. Its light is diffuse, weak, and incoherent. This is the mind in its typical chaotic state. A laser takes that same amount of energy and focuses it into a single, powerful, orderly beam. Its light is coherent. This is the mind in a state of focused, aligned awareness. When you practice mindfulness or meditation, you are training your attention to become stable and unwavering. You are taking the scattered light of your awareness and learning to focus it like a laser. You are sharpening your primary tool of interaction with the universe. When you work to align your emotions with your intentions, by cultivating the feeling of peace, gratitude, or joy, as if your desired outcome has already happened, you are creating a more coherent, energetic signature. A state of heart-brain coherence, where your emotional state matches your mental state, is not just a pleasant feeling, according to this model. It may be the most powerful and orderly measurement signal you can emit into the quantum field. This is how reality shifts. It is not about changing the world out there. It is about fundamentally changing the observer you. As you become more coherent, you change the nature of your own observation. And because observation is a creative act of participation, you begin to participate in a different way. You start to notice opportunities, connections, and synchronicities that you were completely blind to before because you were tuned to the frequency of chaos. You make different choices because you are operating from a place of clarity instead of confusion. The shift is the change in your lived experience that occurs when you move from being a passive, incoherent reactor to an active, coherent participant. You are not changing the laws of physics. You are using your consciousness to navigate the ocean of infinite possibilities with greater skill and grace. You quietly shape your life, not by demanding the universe bend to your will, but by becoming the kind of observer that naturally resonates with the possibilities you wish to experience. Your awareness is the most powerful and fundamental tool you possess. It is the interface between the world of infinite potential and the world you experience day to day. It is the sculptor's hand that gives form to the clay. The reader's eye that turns potential ink into a definitive story. If this exploration into the way reality organizes itself resonates with you, and you wish to continue this journey connecting science and consciousness, consider subscribing for more deep dives into the mysteries of the universe and our place within it. We began with the image of a passive spectator, watching a pre-written film of their life. But what quantum physics and the emerging science of consciousness are beginning to reveal is that this separation is an illusion. You are not in the audience. You are on the stage, in the scene, and your awareness is participating in the script. Science shows us that the universe is not a collection of fixed things, but a dynamic field of potential. A shimmering ocean of possibilities awaiting interaction to crystallize into a state of being. And there is growing evidence that your consciousness is not separate from this field, but is an active participant in this cosmic dance. The truth behind quantum reality shifts is not that you have supernatural powers, but something far more profound and empowering your state of being's matters. Your attention, your intention, and the coherence of your inner world are not just fleeting thoughts or passing feelings. They are fundamental forces that influence how you experience reality. By cultivating a calm, focused, and coherent consciousness, by becoming the laser instead of the light bulb, you move from a state of quiet desperation to one of deep empowerment. You cease to be a spectator to a finished story and become what you were always meant to be, a coherent participant in the grand and mysterious unfolding of your life.